Hello people, today we are going to learn about the planning process group processes, which is defined scope. So let's see. Defined scope is the process of developing a detailed description of the project and product. The key benefit of this process is that it describes the project, service, or result boundaries by defining which of the requirement collected will be included in and excluded from the project scope. Existing risks, assumptions, constraints are analyzed for completeness and added or updated as necessary. The defined scope process can be highly iterative. In iterative life cycle projects, a high-level vision will be developed for the overall project, but the detailed scope is determined one iteration at a time, and the detailed planning for the next iteration is carried out as work progresses on the current project scope and deliverables. So the defined scope process has input, scope management plan, project charter, requirement documentation, organizational process asset. The tools and techniques used for defined scope are expert judgment, product analysis, alternative generation, facilitated workshops. And the output is obviously project scope statement and project document updates. So let's see inputs one by one. First input is scope management plan. The scope management plan is a component of the project management plan that establishes the activities for developing, monitoring, and controlling the project scope. I have already spoken about scope management plan processes in my past tutorial, and if you want to know more about this processes, inputs and output and tools and techniques used, you can go back to my channel and listen to that tutorial. I have also talked about project charter in detail, so you can go back to my channel to listen to it. In brief, the project charter provides high-level project description and product characteristics. Sometimes people confuse between project scope, scope statement and project charter, but they are completely different. We'll know at the end how project charter is different from the scope statement. It also contains project approval requirement. If a project charter is not used in the performing organization, then comparable information needs to be acquired or developed and used on as a basis for the detailed project scope statement. Organizations that do not produce a formal project charter will usually perform an informal analysis to identify the content necessary for further scope planning. Requirement documentation is the third input. The documentation will be used to select requirements that will be included in the project. Organizational process asset, as we have learned in the past, can influence how scope is defined. Examples include policy and procedures, templates for the project scope statement, project files from previous project, and lesson learned from previous phases or projects. Tools and techniques used are expert judgment, facilitated workshop, product analysis, alternative generation. So let's see tools and techniques one by one. Expert judgment is often used to analyze the information needed to develop the project scope statement. Such judgment and expertise is available from many sources, including consultants, stakeholders, customers, sponsors, professional and technical association, industry groups, and subject matter experts. In case of facilitated workshop, the participation of key players with a variety of expectation and fields of expertise in these intensive work session helps to reach a cross-functional and common understanding of the project objectives and its limits. So this is very important, facilitated workshop for defining the scope. Product analysis. For projects that have a product as a deliverable as opposed to service or result, product analysis can be an effective tool. Each application area has one or more generally accepted methods for translating high-level product description into tangible deliverables. Product analysis include techniques such as product breakdown, system analysis, requirement analysis, system engineering, value engineering, and value analysis. So let's see what is value analysis or value engineering. It's a process of providing the lowest cost of product or service without loss of quality and performance. The key technique used is called functional analysis, describes product or process with function-based statement. What is product breakdown structure? It is a logical hierarchy of product of the project. In case of requirement analysis, it is a method to elicit, analyze, and resolve conflict requirement. System analysis is analyzing a system to make it better. In case of system engineering, it's a design and management of complex engineering projects. It also uses quality function deployment, design synthesis, and system validation. In my past tutorial, I have talked in detail about QFD, House of Quality, so you can go back to my channel to learn more on that. In case of alternative generation, technique used to develop as many potential options as possible in order to identify different approaches to execute, perform work of the project. A variety of general management technique can be used such as brainstorming, lateral thinking, analysis of alternative, etc. Let's see output of the defined scope, which is obviously project scope statement. What is project scope statement? The detailed project scope statement, either directly or by reference to other documents, includes the following, which is product scope description, acceptance criteria, deliverable, product exclusion, constraint, and assumption. So let's see one by one. What is product scope description? It progressively elaborates the characteristic of the product, service, or result described in the project charter and requirement documentation. The acceptance criteria is a set of conditions that is required to be met before deliverables are accepted. What is a deliverable? It is any unique and verifiable product, result, or capability to perform a service that is required to be produced to complete a process, phase, or project. Deliverables also include ancillary results such as project management reports and documentation. These deliverables may be described at a summary level in a great detail. Project scope statement also includes project exclusion. What is it? It defines what's excluded from the project or what is out of the scope to help the project managers for defining the deliverables. And next thing is constraints. Constraints are limiting factors, the specific internal or external restrictions or limitations associated with the project scope that affect the execution of the project. For example, a predefined budget or any imposed date or schedule milestone that are issued by the customer or performing organization. When a project is performed under an agreement, contractual provisions will generally be a constraint. Information on constraint may be listed in the project scope statement or in a separate law. Other thing is assumption, which is mentioned in the scope statement. What is assumption? A factor in the planning process that is considered to be true or real or certain, without proof or demonstration. Also describes the potential impact of those factors if they prove to be false. Project team frequently identify, document, and validate assumption as a part of their planning process. Information on assumptions may be listed in the project scope statement in a separate log. So many people think that charter and scope statement are redundant and they are confused between them. So here is the difference. Project charter has a project purpose or justification, while project statement has project scope description, which is progressively elaborated. Project charter has measurable objectives and related success criteria. It has high level requirement, high level project description, high level risk, summary milestone schedule, summary budget, stakeholder list. Whereas scope statement has acceptance criteria, project deliverables, project exclusions, constraints, and assumptions. Note that in the project charter it has only high level things and summary, while project scope has detailed things about deliverables and other things. It is a detailed, and project charter is high level and summary. Project approval requirement: what constitutes success, who decides, who signs off. Assigned project management responsibility and authority level: name and authority of the sponsor or the person authorizing the project charter. So project charter is high level and summary, whereas project scope statement is detailed and has acceptance criteria, deliverables, and exclusions, assumptions, and constraints. And at the same time, SOW is input to the charter. SOW has business need, product scope description, and strategic plan. So let's revise once again before closing this chapter. So first thing is the input is project charter, requirement documentation, scope management plan, and organizational process asset. And tools and techniques used are expert judgment, product analysis, alternative identification, and facilitated workshop. Output is project scope statement and project documents updates. In case of expert judgment, expertise by group or a person with a specialized knowledge is used. In case of alternative generation tools and techniques, brainstorm, lateral thinking, not by step by step think random, outlandish, and challenging ideas. Analysis of alternatives are done, and value analysis is done, providing lowest cost of the product or service without loss of quality and performance. And then product breakdown structure is there. Then requirement analysis is done. System analysis is done. System engineering is done. And in case of output, it's project scope statement, which provides a common understanding of project scope among stakeholder, enables detailed planning, provides baseline, describes all the project deliverables, work required to create those deliverables, include scope exclusions, product scope description, product acceptance criteria, assumptions, that is factors considered to be true, real, and certain for planning purposes, identified and validated by team, listed in assumptions log. And in case of constraint, the limiting factors, example budget, imposed deadlines, contractual constraints, and listed in constraint log. And here, as we are seeing on the screen, the difference between the project charter and project scope. It is project charter is high level and summary, whereas project scope is detailed and progressively elaborated. It has acceptance criteria, deliverable, exclusion, constant, as assumption. So guys, I hope you got some idea on defined scope process and scope statement. So come back to my channel or subscribe to my channel for more videos on PMP and other things. Thank you very much for watching.